Brain-bending, mind-tingling, one of the most clever, interesting, and engaging puzzle board games I've ever played. I absolutely adore Turing Machine, to the point where I even got one of the designers to sign my copy. Thanks, Fabian. It's got one tiny problem though. Every time you teach it to new players, it feels like their brains begin to buffer. So let's take the teach for this game and punch it up a bit. Just like in the game, you'll want to diligently take notes during this episode of how to teach so you can reference them later. Just kidding, I already did that for you. Here's a free teacher's guide for you that you can save that sums up the whole video so you don't have to decode how to teach this game every time you bust the box open. I give that to you with all my love, heart, and a plea for my rent money at the end of the video. Scorpion Mask really crushed it with this one. This is one of those games where once you understand it, you won't be able to get enough. Pitching this game works best if you have the components in your hands so you can show off how the punch cards work with the Verifier cards. Plus, I always recommend getting the game out of its box at your game nights when trying to sell someone on it, because the next board game to get opened is usually the next one to get played. However, sometimes you've got to convince someone away from the game table to give it a shot, and in that case, I'd recommend talking about the incredible puzzle solving that you'll be doing. In Turing Machine, you'll work through logical deductions and use clever leaps of reasoning to get across crisscrossing clues the cards are carefully communicating. It's invigorating and tense all at the same time, as it's a race to see who can crack the code first. Plus, this game can be played competitively or cooperatively, which lets you cater your pitch to different types of players. If you've got this game collecting dust on your shelves and your friends seem to think it's a bit too complicated for them, go ahead and let them know that you watched exactly one extremely niche YouTube video on how to teach it. I'm positive that will make them more willing to give it another shot. Want to sell someone on powering on the Turing Machine? Here's a 30-second pitch to get your friends and family excited to crack some codes. What if Mastermind, the classic puzzle game from the 70s, was actually a good game? In Turing Machine, we'll be carefully theorizing possible solutions to a 3-digit code and then testing them to find out what they have in common with the final code using a punch card computer. Do you test your code to see if it has the right number of 3s in it, or do you find out if the last digit is higher or lower than the first? Maybe you just want to know if that second digit is even or odd. You'll need to choose what questions you ask the machine carefully, because this is a race to the finish. You'll need to carefully untangle the clues you find to solve this puzzle in as few steps as possible. This game is gonna melt your brain, and you're gonna love it. One of the most tedious parts of setting up Turing Machine are all the criteria card and their corresponding verification cards. Going through the giant stack of all those cards can make the game look a lot more overwhelming than it actually is. That's why, if you know ahead of time that you'll be introducing this game to new players, I recommend top decking all the cards you need for an introductory game before getting Turing Machine to the table. Also, remember how in the last section I mentioned that getting the game out means people are more likely to play it? Well, if you have the criteria cards and the verifier cards ready to go, you can set up this game in less time it took for me to read these sentences out, and I talk fast. Also, don't forget to bring some nice pencils. I recommend ones with good erasers. Whenever you're the teacher, it's more fun if you can enjoy the game alongside the players you're teaching, so I took the time to put together a handful of first game setups for you, because there's only the singular first game given to you in the rulebook, and you've likely already played it, and it's a puzzle game with one solution for each puzzle. So yeah, using the ones in the teacher guide, you can explore the logic of the first puzzle together with the people at the table, rather than already knowing the solution to the puzzle before you even start. Fortunately, the website that Scorpion Mask has for this game is wonderfully designed and capable of generating near infinite puzzles to solve, which is how I came up with these preset intro puzzles. On screen are some I recommend, and these will be included in the teacher's guide as well. I hate when puzzle books do that tiny upside down number things on the bottom of the page as a solution, so those QR codes are the answers underneath each setup. The nifty part of all these is that the first criteria card is the same between them, so you can learn how to teach using the first card as the example, and then have that be the anchor for all the times you teach the game moving forward. As you teach these, there's a little square to cross them off on the teacher's guide, and if you think you'll be introducing new people to this game again the next time you play, when you put Turing Machine away, you can set the game up for the next one on the list as you put it away. Now that all the setup is done, let's punch into that teach. If you know my videos, you know I break down the beginning of every teach to 3 parts, which I call setting the big 3. However, just like how this game breaks my brain, it also breaks my teaching method, because honestly, there just isn't really much thematically to go off here, so there's not much of a stage to set. Like, sure, you can talk about Alan Turing and his contributions to modern computing and blast techno music, but I'm just gonna go ahead and skip to the goal and expectations. For setting the goal, we are going to be a little bit more involved than just saying it's a puzzle game, solve the puzzle. You'll want to explain that each game of Turing Machine has a 3-digit code, with each digit being numbers 1 through 5. Digits can repeat, and each game has exactly one solution, no exceptions. The goal is to figure out that 3-digit code as efficiently as possible. Before setting the expectations, my gut reaction was to warn everyone that this game is extremely confusing at first, but I think that's actually a trap. I think that's actually setting them up to hate the game, and instead, you should say that the core puzzle is tricky, but you'll feel like a genius every time you understand another part of Turing Machine's inner complexity. It's kind of like how when you're getting like a shot, the doctor says, it'll only hurt a bit, instead of going, oh, this is going to hurt the entire time. Really bad. The best way to learn any game is by making mistakes, so I've carefully picked out the starting scenarios so that the criteria cards are the easiest to learn through trial and error. Just set up for a full game and go for it, and maybe mention that it's a bit more of a practice or learning round first. Now it's time to explain the main gameplay loop before diving in using your notes sheet. You'll show how the game is broken down into rounds where everyone writes down a 3-number code, with each digit being 1 to 5, and then testing that code to see which properties it shares with the final code. Each round, you only get one 3-digit code to test, so as you play, you can make better guesses for what 3-digit codes that are good to use in the future, but for this first round, just everyone can pick 3 digits at random. Once everyone's written down their guess in the allocated space, this is where everyone will grab their corresponding punch cards in order to form their 3-digit code. I'd also point out that as they do this, the first digit is a blue triangle, the second is an orange square, and then the third is a purple circle. And I remember the order of these because the side number increases as the digit goes on in the code, but that doesn't really explain the colors. So if you have a mnemonic or a way to remember blue triangle, orange square, red circle, purple circle, let me know in the comments, because I would love a better way to remember the order, because it's sometimes easy to forget when you're like looking at the cards and you're like, what the frick are these digits? So yeah, if you have a way to remember that, let me know, because the side thing isn't very good. Everyone should have their punch cards together, and I would hope instinctively stacked them up and realize that they make a single whole. Take a random verifier card from the box and show the back of it to everyone, and then demonstrate how the game can give you a yes or no answer specific to your 3-digit combination. At this point, you'll draw everyone's attention to the criteria cards and their corresponding verifier cards. Here's a little spiel that I give at this point. So in the middle here, we have the meat of this game. This is where we'll be deducing information about the code. Each one of these cards are called criteria cards, and they're paired with verifier cards like the one I just showed you. Think of these pairs of cards like robots who only know one piece of information about the code, but they don't know anything about the actual digits in the final code. Each round, you're essentially proposing a final solution and then running it by most of these robots. Each robot will tell you if your proposed solution follows the only information it knows about the final code, but not necessarily any correct digits. I use the robot analogy here to help personify the cards a bit for a reason. It's really easy to misunderstand what these cards are doing if you start reading them out verbatim and trying to use the game's own terms to explain them, at least in my opinion. I think that framing these things a little bit as just like little guys that know one piece of information to give you is a lot easier to wrap your head around. People will still likely be scratching their heads, so now it's time to teach by doing. Going clockwise around the table, start with the player on your left and let everyone have the first verifier be their first question of the round, which is one of the simplest ones in the game. It just tells you if the first digit is even or odd. That's it. Have everyone take the verifier for the first criteria and have them put their 3 punch cards on it. As people start doing this, you'll address the table and use your notes as an example. That criteria card and its verifier only know if the first digit is even or odd, which means it doesn't actually know the digit. So if you gave it an even number for your first digit and it says yes, you know the first digit is even. And if it gave it an odd and it said yes and the first digit is odd, and if it gave you a no, then the opposite of whatever you have is true. While everyone is passing the card around, I would show off how you write down the answers that you get from the verifier cards on the top of your notes. And I would also show off how you write down information that you learn in the sections below, and then how to cross off digits off on the top as you eliminate potential wrong answers. Most likely, by the time you get through all of that, the verifier card should have made its way back to you, so now you can do a little test to make sure people are on the right track to understanding this game. I chose this first criteria card in particular as it's one of the few cards you're guaranteed to only need to test once. In theory, everyone should have the correct answer to this part of the puzzle puzzle, so you can publicly go through the process start to finish just to confirm that everyone got the correct information out of their first criteria query. If everyone got it right, that's awesome. You're through the thick of it and everyone should be able to start moving forward. Anyone who got it wrong, and you can just start walking them through this verifier again using their code as the example, while everyone else moves on to the next step. It's now time to set the table off to explore the rest of the verifiers. Before letting them loose though, I would, at this point, go through the rest of the verifiers for your particular starting game and explain what piece of information each verifier will know. Assuming people are starting to catch on, which hopefully they are, let them know they can check only 2 more of the verifiers this round and that they need to keep track of their yes and no results on their notes as they go. As everyone sort of shuffles along and scratches their heads, I'd let everyone muddle in any confusion they're having at this point for just a moment. The worst thing you can do is overteach this part of the game, since that click moment where they finally understand how this game works is so magical, and you can ruin it by over-explaining the game. Most people start asking questions on what a particular answer means, and using that question to help cement their mechanics in their heads is your best bet for getting them hooked on what makes Turing Machine so amazing. After everyone passes their code through their 3 chosen criteria, it's good to do a check-in to see how everyone's doing at the end of the round. Some players are still really confused and not sure what's going on. Some players got it and want to get to the next round already, and most players are going to be somewhere in between. Like, they sort of get what's going on, but aren't quite sure what they're doing and have a general idea how to play the game, at least. Those latter 2 are fine. Let's talk about the people who are gobsmacked by this game and help them catch up with the class. If someone's still really confused, this is one of those times where you need to be careful with how you word and say things, which is something I personally struggle with when teaching thinky games like this. Word choice is important, and it's one of the hardest parts of teaching a game. What part confuses you, or which part doesn't make sense to you, sound reasonable to me, someone who's a little autistic-y, but to normal people, apparently those can sound derogatory or like it's entirely their fault they don't understand what's going on. I mean, kinda is, but apparently you can't just ask, how do you not get it yet, or call them a moron. People have been saying that to me my whole life. You don't see me crying about it outside of therapy. Instead, I recommend saying something like, let's see what answers you got for that first round and go from there, to avoid any accidental punching down, as it were. As the teacher, you should always do your best to bring everyone in at the table and make sure they understand what's going on and enjoy themselves at least to the best of your ability. And let the record show that earlier part was a joke. I don't call people morons to their face. I do it behind their back and say, bless their heart, like the good little southerner I am. Honestly, if all else fails, maybe just have them say what they think is happening, because chances are, if they've gotten this far, they actually get it, but they're convinced they must have something wrong. It's like a reverse click moment where they're so sure they misunderstood the game, even though they've actually figured it out. So, like, what would you call that? Like a reverse click moment. Like a reverse, like a slurp moment. No, cut. Turing Machine, the game, understands how tricky it is to get into. That's why they have a shockingly good example of how this game works on page 6 of the rulebook. Look, it even says, show this example to anyone who's learning the game. Neat. Genuinely, certain types of players, usually the ones who reach for the rulebook instead of listening to you, will get a ton out of this short read. It's got pictures, examples, and everything. It's freaking great. Obviously, most people gawk at reading the rulebook, but this is a great backup option for players who find it annoying to listen to your slightly nasally bass baritone voice and would rather be given a written example. So if you've got players like that at the table, you can leave the rulebook open to this page and mention there's an example in there if they ever get confused, and the ones that it'll help most will just naturally want to give it a read. So you've made it through your first round, and in theory, no one should know the final code for sure, though some people might want to take a guess. For their first game, instead of just giving them the answer, I would recommend going through and checking each verifier with their proposed answer using the punch cards. This means that if they're wrong, you're still technically able to keep playing the game and go on to guessing a new code, working out where they went wrong, and still try to solve the puzzle without just being given the answer. Also, by having them check their code against all 4 verifiers, it cements how this whole game works with its verifier cards, because, buddy, this game can get real confusing. Thanks, Fabian. Regardless of what method you use to let everyone at the table verify if their code is correct or not, let everyone have a chance to check their answer before revealing the final code to everyone. So, now, you've completed your first game. In my experience, you can gauge a group's interest by how much they talk afterwards. If they're all just looking at you like, why did you do this to us? Turing Machine might not be a good fit for them. And it's not for everyone. This sort of puzzly, computer-like gameplay is super weird to see in a board game, especially when so much of it, like, the hidden information that you're trying to discover is done mechanically like this. Don't get discouraged if the group you introduced to this didn't actually have the best time their first game, especially if it was your first time teaching it. However, If after your first game, the players at the table start asking how the game works, how it was made, what other kind of verifiers the game has, or they just start playing with the fun little punch cards, that's a great sign that you did an amazing job teaching it, and you can offer a second round to the table, and depending on the group, offer to take it up a notch in difficulty now that they've gotten the basics down. Teacher's Guide! It's the thing that sums up this whole video. It's free, it's on my Patreon, and it's ready to be shoved into the box or saved to your phone so you're ready the next time you go to teach this banger of a game. If you feel stressed when teaching a game, these will help you through it, I promise. To the left. My left, you're right. Anyways, hey look, it's the Patreon supporters. If I'm ever torn on what game to cover next, these guys get to vote on the next game that's featured on the show, and if you have a game that you want to see, higher tiers get to put a game on the ballot. Thank you guys so much for helping me pick out Turing Machine. I freaking love this game. It's honestly such a great pick for the show, so well done, y'all. All right, that's the end of the episode. Time for the table to fly in from the corner, and then the meeples will slide on the screen, the pink will slam down the speech bubble, and then the oh, wow, okay, just not gonna do it this time. Oh, all right, well, video's over, I guess. That's very unsatisfying.